May is obviously Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I want to read a line that you wrote in a recent op-ed for USA Today. You said, "Every time my husband runs for office, the opposition finds no problem questioning my ethnic heritage and patriotism and mobilizing it against us." So tell us about what it's like to face racist attacks in the political sphere.
Well, it's just so funny, that the Democrats who claim to be the purveyors of anti-discrimination and they accuse others of racism, they are the ones who accuse me of divided loyalties. They're the ones who question my ethnicity, question my patriotism, question the patriotism of my family and my husband. So it's clearly very partisan attacks. And most recently, while I was Secretary of Transportation, I was consistently maligned, my reputation abused and attacked with baseless, false attacks. And then they attack my family, who are the greatest patriots of all. My father left China to come to America. He and my mother built a life for 6 daughters. They are the embodiment of America's promise of opportunity. And they are great patriots because they know what opportunities this country has given their daughters. And they came with nothing but hope and a belief in America. And then to have them be targeted in this malicious, partisan way is just unforgivable. So.
You touched on this a little bit. Do you see a double standard in the way society, and maybe particularly Democrats, respond to anti-Asian discrimination versus other forms of racism that they claim to care about?
There's definitely a double standard. I think it's hard to be a African-American conservative, a Hispanic conservative, American conservative, and it's hard to be an Asian American conservative. And somehow, if you are a conservative, a Republican, you are not deemed to be of your ethnic race. And so I've actually, as I mentioned, been targets of media bias. If my last name were Smith, there would be no stories about divided loyalties, about a story about me being placed on June 3rd, 2019, during the Tiananmen Square coverage. I mean, we are Americans. We've got nothing to do with the old country. But again, because of my last name, I'm lumped together with all sorts of xenophobic attacks. And I think the sad thing is if someone like me is attacked, it's quite frightening. As experienced as I am and as a veteran as I am, if I am attacked, think of what it means to, a young immigrant or a new immigrant who's just come to this country and they're struggling to survive, to provide a living for their family. What insecurities and what fear must be instilled in them to see such baseless, malicious attacks against someone who's pretty well known and who has had a lifetime dedicated to public service.
What can be done, do you think, to help push back on that in society? Do you think it's, for example, more representation of Asian Americans in government, such as yourself, or can Congress do anything to address that?
I think the media can certainly address this issue. I think when the media is not honest, it actually builds and contributes to the lack of trust in our society. So I think the media plays a large role in having to report things fairly. And again, when they don't do their job, there is, this contributes to the lack of trust. Like 61% of Americans feel that a lot of the media these days are pushing an ideology rather than covering the news.
I want to end on a bit of a lighter note here. What advice would you have for a young woman of color who might aspire to public office, such as yourself?
This is a wonderful country, and America responds to energy. And if you have ideas and you are determined and you work hard, good things will happen. I don't mean to skip over your question about the Asian American situation, because I've been very concerned about that. And in fact, I issued a very strong statement on March 18th in the aftermath of the Atlanta killings. I've also worked with other Asian American former office holders to issue a very strong statement, including 60 former, on a bipartisan basis, Democrat and Republican senior government officials, and how important it is that we as a country deal with this issue. I think this has also been a wake-up call for the Asian American community. We traditionally have been reserved, quiet. We tend to our families, try to make a good living, take care of our families. And I think what has happened in the last year has helped this community to find our voice and to learn to be more visible.